Welcome to English Learning Oasis. Here, we believe that learning English can be as fun and adventurous as the stories we share. In this captivating story, The Brave Little Squirrel, we follow Nutty, a spirited young squirrel who discovers the true meaning of bravery. Faced with a challenge that could threaten his beloved forest, Nutty learns that courage isn't about being the strongest, but about standing up for what's right. The brave little squirrel. Once upon a time, in a vast and verdant forest surrounded by rolling hills and clear streams, there lived a lively and spirited little squirrel named Nutty, with bright eyes, a bushy tail, and quick, nimble paws. Nutty was known throughout the forest for his playful nature and boundless energy. But despite his cheerful personality, Nutty was also known to be a little timid, especially when it came to facing the unknown or standing up to danger. Nutty lived in the largest oak tree in the heart of the forest, a towering giant with branches that stretched wide and strong. His nest, made from twigs, leaves, and soft moss, was cozy and high above the ground, providing Nutty with the perfect view of the world around him. He loved sitting in his nest, watching birds fly by and listening to the wind rustle through the leaves. The forest was home to many animals: deer, foxes, rabbits, and even a few wise old owls, but Nutty's closest friends were a curious group. There was Swift, a clever little rabbit with ears that stood tall and alert, always ready to jump at the first sign of danger. Then there was Luna, a graceful young deer who moved through the trees like a shadow, her quiet footsteps barely making a sound. And finally there was Buster, a friendly badger with a hearty laugh and a love for digging underground tunnels. One warm summer day, as the sun cast dappled light across the forest floor, Nutty decided to gather some acorns for the coming winter. He scampered down from his tree and began searching the forest for the best spots to find acorns. As he darted from tree to tree, his nose twitching as he sniffed for the nuts, he heard a rustling sound in the bushes nearby. Pausing, Nutty perked up his ears and cautiously crept toward the sound. Suddenly, out of the bushes leapt a small, frightened mouse. Nutty quickly recognized him as Squeaky, one of the smallest and most timid animals in the forest. Squeaky's whiskers quivered, and his tiny paws trembled as he squeaked in fear. "Nutty, oh, Nutty," Squeaky squeaked breathlessly. "There's something terrible happening near the river. It's a big, scary creature, and it's causing all sorts of trouble." Nutty's heart raced at the thought of danger, but he tried to stay calm. "What kind of creature?" he asked, though a nervous tremor slipped into his voice. Squeaky shook his tiny head. "I don't know, but it's huge and fierce, and it's scaring all the animals away. You have to come and see it for yourself." Though Nutty's first instinct was to stay far away from danger, he couldn't ignore Squeaky's plea. Summoning what little courage he could, Nutty agreed to follow Squeaky to the river. As they raced through the trees, Nutty's mind whirled with worrying. What kind of creature could be so fearsome that it frightened the entire forest? When they arrived at the river bank, Nutty could see what Squeaky had been talking about. There, near the water's edge, stood a large and intimidating creature, a wild boar. The boar had sharp tusks, thick bristly fur, and eyes that glinted menacingly in the sunlight. It was rooting through the ground with its snout tearing up the earth and knocking over small trees as it went. Several animals had gathered nearby, keeping a safe distance from the boar. Among them were Swift, Luna, and Buster, all looking worried and unsure of what to do. "We can't just let that boar tear up our forest," Luna said, her gentle voice tinged with concern. "It's destroying everything in its path." "But what can we do?" Swift asked, hopping nervously from foot to foot. "That thing is huge. It would take more than just a few of us to scare it off." Buster grunted in agreement. "I've seen boars like that before. They're stubborn and strong. Once they set their mind to something, it's hard to get them to stop." Nutty felt a knot of fear tighten in his stomach. He knew they had to do something to protect their home, but he didn't feel brave enough to face the boar head-on. However, as he looked around at his friends and the other animals in the forest, he realized that they were all counting on each other to find a solution. Taking a deep breath, Nutty stepped forward. "Maybe we don't need to scare it off with force," he said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. "Perhaps we can outsmart it instead." The other animals turned to Nutty, surprised by his words. Swift twitched his ears. "What do you have in mind, Nutty?" Nutty thought for a moment, his mind racing with possibilities. He knew the boar was strong and stubborn, but he also knew that boars were not known for their patience. If they could somehow trick the boar into leaving the area on its own, they wouldn't have to risk confronting it directly. "I have an idea," Nutty said, a spark of determination lighting up his eyes. "We can use the boar's own strength and stubbornness against it. If we can lure it into the old hollow tree on the other side of the river, we might be able to trap it there, at least long enough to convince it to leave." Luna tilted her head. "How will we lure it there?" Nutty smiled. "I'll be the bait. I'll get its attention and lead it across the river. Once we're near the hollow tree, Swift and Buster can help close the entrance with fallen branches. That should give us enough time to talk to the boar and figure out why it's here." Swift's eyes widened. "You're going to be the bait? But Nutty, that's dangerous." Nutty's heart pounded in his chest, but he nodded. "I know it's risky, but someone has to do it. And I'm quick and small. I can stay ahead of the boar if I'm careful." The other animals exchanged worried glances, but they could see the determination in Nutty's eyes. Finally, Luna stepped forward and nodded. "If you're sure about this, Nutty, then we'll help you." With the plan set, the animals moved into position. Swift and Buster began gathering branches to use for the trap, while Luna and Squeaky kept watch for any signs of the boar's movements. Nutty, meanwhile, took a deep breath and prepared himself for the task ahead. The boar was still rooting through the ground near the river bank, completely unaware of the animal's plan. Gathering all his courage, Nutty darted forward, making sure to stay within the boar's line of sight. "Hey, you!" began briskly, Nutty called out, trying to sound braver than he felt. The boar snorted and looked up, its eyes narrowing as it spotted the little squirrel. For a moment, Nutty's legs felt like jelly, but he forced himself to stay calm. "Come and get me if you can," he shouted, before turning and dashing away through the trees. The boar let out an angry grunt and charged after Nutty, its heavy hooves thundering against the ground. Nutty's heart raced as he zigzagged through the trees, using his agility to stay ahead of the pursuing boar. The trees whipped past him in a blur, but Nutty kept his focus on the path ahead. As they neared the river, Nutty saw the hollow tree in the distance. Swift and Buster were already in place, ready to close off the entrance. Soon as Nutty led the boar inside, with the boar hot on his tail, Nutty made a sharp turn and darted toward the hollow tree. He slipped inside just as the boar crashed through the underbrush behind him. The boar, too stubborn to stop, barreled into the tree, and Nutty leapt out of the way just in time. Swift and Buster quickly pushed the branches into place, blocking the entrance to the hollow tree and trapping the boar inside. The boar let out an angry snort and thrashed against the branches, but it was unable to escape. Breathing heavily, Nutty climbed up to a safe perch on a nearby tree branch and looked down at the trapped boar. "It's okay," he called down to the boar. "We're not trying to hurt you. We just want to talk." The boar snorted again, but it stopped thrashing and seemed to calm down slightly. Nutty cautiously approached the tree and peered inside. "Why are you here?" Nutty asked gently. "Why are you tearing up our forest?" The boar huffed and pawed at the ground, but after a moment it spoke in a gruff voice. "I didn't mean to cause trouble. I was just looking for food. The forest on the other side of the river is drier, and there's nothing left to eat." Nutty's heart softened. He hadn't realized that the boar was struggling to survive. "I'm sorry," Nutty said. "We didn't know. But there are better ways to find food than destroying the forest." The boar lowered its head. "I didn't mean to hurt the forest. I was just so hungry." Nutty thought for a moment, then turned to his friends. "Maybe we can help the boar. There's plenty of food in our part of the forest, and if we share it, the boar won't have to tear up the land." Luna nodded in agreement. "We can help gather food for the boar. If we work together, no one has to go hungry." With that, the animals worked together to gather berries, nuts, and roots from the forest. They brought the food to the boar, who gratefully accepted their offering. In return, the boar promised to stop destroying the forest and to live in harmony with the other animals. Over time, the boar became a friend to the animals of the forest. Nutty, who had once been afraid of danger, had proven that even the smallest and seemingly weakest among them could be brave and make a difference. As the days passed, Nutty's reputation as the bravest little squirrel in the forest grew, and though he still loved to play and gather acorns, he knew that true bravery wasn't just about being strong. It was about standing up for what was right, even when it was scary. And so Nutty continued to live in his cozy nest in the great oak tree, always ready for the next adventure, and always willing to lend a helping paw to those in need. The forest, now at peace, thrived under the care of its brave and compassionate animals, and the legend of the brave little squirrel who outsmarted a wild boar became a tale passed down through generations, inspiring courage and kindness in all who heard it.